kaibigan, welcome to In My Toolbox. Of course, this is your weekly talk show for your personal finance and business, only here at PHLV Radio. The goal of this show, mga kaibigan, is to give you financial and business information that you may be able to use on your day-to-day financial decisions. Of course, we will unbox topics here that would hopefully be able to aid you and guide you and maybe even add to your financial tools and business tools. We will tackle important information here, mostly not taught in school, but of course, this is so much needed to empower you financially and empower your business. As usual, mga kaibigan, in any idea that will transpire in this show, always consult with your financial advisors, insurance professionals, tax consultants, etc., etc., etc. Again, my name is Enrico Pobre. I'm your host. If you want to get in touch with me, definitely you can always get in touch with me through PHLV, or you can email me at enrico.inmytoolbox@gmail.com. All right, mga kaibigan. So, how was your Valentine's? Meron ba kayong Valentines? Alright. Mga kaibigan, this is very timely that we're going to be talking about your ways on what to do, how to do it, preparing for this tax season. Ayan. Are you guys ready? Of course, to prepare for tax season, mga kaibigan, you have to understand, number one, your filing status. Do you even understand what filing status is all about? You have to gather all documents. You have to decide whether to file for yourself or you actually use a tax preparer. Do you want to maximize retirement contributions? And do you want to adjust your tax withholding? Kaya natin siya ina-adjust for you to ensure that you paid the proper amount throughout the year. Okay? Mga kaibigan, this year's tax filing deadline is going to be April 15, 2024. Okay? So, pero it's always a good idea that you start getting ready for the tax season as soon as possible, right? So, for example, if you have earned income in 2023, now is the time to file it, right? And you actually will need to file a federal tax return, right? And mostly, you will be more likely to have a state tax return as well. Of course, this depends where you live. So if you don't know where to begin, what I'm going to talk to you guys about today will be able to help you understand how to prepare for this tax season, and you're able to assemble everything that you need to file, and this is the key, on time. All right, so let me just share with you guys a couple of items that you would want to have it on your hand to be able to what? To successfully file your taxes this 2024. Number one, I mentioned a while ago, you have to understand your filing status. Look, the IRS has 5 main filing statuses that you may have not known, right? But I'm going to give it to you guys, right? This is actually, for all taxpayers, and this could be single, head of household. Are you filing married, jointly? Or are you married filing separately? Or number 5, qualifying widower with dependent children. So, depending on your filing status, those are your filing status, guys, right? You may have different tax filing requirements as well. And the quality for certain deductions and credits. Now, look at this one, guys. I mentioned to you some important items that you would want to consider, or you have to consider when you file your taxes, right? No, you have to know your filing status, and then the different requirements, and then qualify for certain deductions and certain credits. For example, the IRS will allow a standard deduction of $27,700 for married couples who actually filed jointly for the year 2023, right? Tax year. Okay, so if you don't know that, guys, you have to ask your tax preparer, how much for this year, for tax year 2023, is my standard deduction for married people that will be filing jointly. Now, a standard deduction for single filers anyway is $13,850. So for single filers and married couples who actually file separately, That's the standard deduction, 13,850. So if you're unsure, guys, of your filing status, again, you can actually ask a professional who can guide you, or there is actually an IRS helpful tools that will be able to help you to figure out the best option for you. Simply answer a series of questions on the IRS website, and you'll be able to be shown the filing status that aligns to whatever situation you actually have. Wow. So, do you guys know your filing status? That's the first thing. You have to decide first, especially for married couple, how you would be presenting your tax filing. Is got to be either jointly or separately, and check it, ask questions, go to the professionals so they can guide you accordingly, that that will actually be able to adopt whatever situation you're in. Okay. Number 2, make sure that your name and addresses are updated. Again, you have to make sure that your name and addresses are actually updated. Okay, so this may sound so obvious, but I'm telling you, a lot of people may have missed this one, especially for people who move from one place to the other, or people who got married, etc. Right? So it can be, these things can be easily overlooked, mga kaibigan. So if you have recently moved, as I was telling you, or a person that keep on moving, my God, right? So, and then even divorce, of course, you'll be able to change your name. It's a good idea really to ensure that these informations should be updated with the IRS and the Social Security Administration. So if you have legally changed your name, well, contact your local Social Security office, because you'll need to provide, when you do this, you'll need to provide proof of identity, such as, your government IDs, or even life insurance policy or marriage license. You can use this one, right? So, or you can call the IRS to update the address information. You have to fill out a change of address form and you can mail it in. Or you can provide new addresses when you file your returns. You just have to keep in mind, mga kaibigan, that if you wait to do this until you file your return, now look at this, you might be able to miss the important communications from the IRS before it could happen. Okay? So, changes of name, changes of addresses, you have to double check, guys, that you have those covered. All right? So, another thing that I would suggest to you guys to prepare for this tax season is you have to organize your tax documents. Again, you have to organize what tax documents, right? So, once you understand the filing status and you were able to gather all necessary documents that you will need, to file your returns, this actually are some of those items or the documents that you will have to consider. Okay, number 1, you have to have a copy of your last year's return. So, well, if you are good, if you file all your tax returns every year, if you're that kind of a person, that should be easy. But if you're not that type of a person, well, I think we have a little bit of a problem there, right? So the reason why you have to do this, because it will help you understand that what deductions and credits you took last year, and this will be able to remind you about any information that you may need when you file your 2023 tax return. If that makes sense, right? So sometimes we may overlook, again, all of these things. It sounds easy, but again, it's very, very helpful if you know where to find your last year's tax return, and make it as a habit that you based what you filed last year for what you're going to be filing this year. Okay, number 2. The second document that you would want to look into is, of course, your W-2 form, right? So a W-2, it actually details the income that you received from your job during the most recent tax year. So if you were, employed full-time or part-time during the year, your employer will typically send you this form called W-2 by the end of January. So today is February, guys, so you might have it, check on your mails, right? You don't want to lose that because that will be very important when you actually file your taxes. Okay, now these are W-2s are for those people who are employed. Now let's talk about the 1099 form, 1099 forms or 1099 forms. This is if you were self-employed. Your clients, now look at this, your clients will send you individual 1099 forms that will detail how much you were paid. Okay, so if you're not that business person or self-employed person that files their taxes every quarterly, that might be a good way to ask maybe, all of this 1099s from your clients, so you'll be updated. But if you only do this once a year, because if you have this quarterly, that can be easily be managed. But if you don't do it every quarterly, it's going to be harder for you to gather all of this one, because you would want to have estimated taxes for your self-employed income during the year. So you'll have to do all of these things when you actually file your returns in April. Okay. Another form that you would want to, consider. Oh, by the way, all of these forms, guys, that I'm going to be mentioning might not be applicable to all of this. Might not be applicable to you, right? So just think of where you're at, and what necessary forms that you should be having, preparing for this tax season. So there's another form called 1098 or 1098. This is if you are a homeowner. This form will include information about the amount of mortgage interest you've paid during the year. So if you are a homeowner, and of course you have mortgages, there's an interest that you pay every year. So you would want to have that Form 1098 to be part of those documents that you would want to prepare when you pay for your taxes or you file your taxes. Okay. Now, there's another form that you would want to look into if this is applicable to you. It's Form 1099 DIV. So this Form 1099 DIV, this is reports at any income that you received from what? DIV is dividends, okay? Or distribution related to your investments. So if you're a person that has an investment that you receive dividends or distributions at the end of the year, this is the form that you will be receiving, 1099, right? 1099 DIV. So if you own stocks, if you own bonds, or if you own a rental property or any other type of investment that has generated profit, you should expect to receive this form 1099 DIV. So another form is 1098E, 1098E. This form is a form for those people who have student loan interest statement. Okay, so this is Form 1098E. So if you have a student loan that has interest statement, this is actually the form that you will need. And this actually include information on the amount of student loan interest that you paid throughout the year. So these two forms that I told you that has something to do with interest are Forms 1098. For student loan, it's Form 1098E. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Amount for deduction, you could be eligible for a deduction up to $2,500 on the interest you paid depending on your income. So I'll take it. Any amount, guys, I'll take it if this is a deduction. Okay? So another form, guys, that would like to mention to you is Form 5498. Well, this form, it actually details the amount that you have contributed throughout the year to an individual retirement account or IRA. So definitely a lot of you guys have this IRA. So what you're looking for is the Form 5498. The bank or your brokerage firm will actually hold your account and will send you this type of form at the end of the tax year or the following January. So the amount that you have contributed may be tax deductible as long as your income it does not exceed the limit that the IRS has set. Okay, so that's Form 5498. This is for your contributions for your IRA. There's another form, guys, called Form 1095A. 1095A, this is a form for your what? Health insurance marketplace statement. So this actually includes information that allows individuals who enrolled into what you call qualified health plans during that year. This is either to get the premium tax credit to offset their healthcare costs, or they would want to reconcile the credit on their returns with any advance payment that they actually have received. Again, this is the Form 1095A or 1095A. Okay, there's another form, letter 6419. Parang bingo dating ko, no? Letter 6419. This actually is a letter that will detail the total amount of the advanced child tax credits an individual or a couple received, so they can accurately claim the remaining credit on their tax return. So you can only claim this, guys, if you have a child or dependent under the age 17. Wow. Letter 6419. So another document, right, guys, that you would want to consider. You have a lot of expenses on your businesses, right? So you want to have this information on business expenses. So if you're self-employed or you own a small business, you should keep all these receipts and credit card statements to accurately track your expenses. So if you use bookkeeping software that is linked to your account, you can easily export all this information and you'll be able to use this to file your returns, right? So otherwise, guys, you can actually download your monthly business credit card statements, or you simply create a spreadsheet where you actually list all your annual business expenses, restaurants, gasoline, all of these things, right? You have to keep a detailed records throughout the year, and then this will be able to help you maximize your business deductions, and you are able to potentially reduce your tax liability. Wow, ang daming there's a lot of jargons here that you may not be familiar with, but I would suggest, guys, just familiarize yourself what the forms that is applicable to you. So this list, guys, is those are just few. It's really exhaustive, really, once you actually look at all of these forms. But again, only what is applicable to you. But this is a good starting point, that the whole idea that I'm mentioning this one is for you to get organized for this tax season, that you'll be able to prepare all of these documents that you need, that you have a successful filing. And this will actually help decide whether is it feasible to file on your own, or you need somebody else who is a professional to be able to file your taxes on your behalf. Okay, so again, to prepare for this tax season, decide whether, again, as I mentioned a while ago, decide whether you are going to do it yourself. There's nothing wrong, right? Or you would want to use a tax preparer. There's a lot of people out there that's very good in preparing taxes. So maybe as you figure out, and by yourself that you can prepare your taxes, go on, But don't forget, you also need to decide, if this is actually right for me to do it, or I'd rather get a professional like an accountant or just a tax preparer out there, right? So, the reason why I'm mentioning that is the more complicated your tax situation is, the better that to think of getting an experienced tax professional to be able to handle your returns. You don't want to mess this one, guys, especially if your tax situation is very complicated. Now, if you own a business and you have to file both personal and business tax returns, you need an accountant that will help you, that it will, they will actually ensure all the information here is accurate and it's filed appropriately with the IRS. However, mga kaibigan, in your tax situation, if it's only, pretty straightforward, like for example, if you're a single filer who has W-2, and you don't have a home and you don't have dependents, well, that's pretty much straightforward. It may be easier and less expensive to use tax filing software. right? So many of this tax filing software are good in guiding everyday filers through the process because, again, your case is simple, right? So, but if you are if you have a complicated situation, that's another story. You may want to get somebody who can actually guide you, right? But in some cases, you may be able to pay an additional small fee, again, as I mentioned, if you have these professionals beside you. Okay? So now it's up to you if you would want to do it yourself, or you can actually hire a tax preparer. Another thing that you would want to prepare for this tax season is you max out your IRA contribution. Why? So if you have an IRA, it's so wise to contribute as much possible before the filing of the deadline in April, because the IRS will allow individuals younger than 50 years old to be able to contribute up to $7,000 for 2023 tax year. But those people who are 50 and over can actually contribute up to $8,000 with, and this will include $1,000 of catch-up contribution. So if you have not done that yet, if you haven't increased it yet, or you haven't maxed out your contributions yet, well, this is a good news, and I'm telling you that you can make an IRA contribution until April 5th this year. Again, if you would want to max out your contribution, you can still do it before April 5th, 2024. All right. Another way to prepare for this tax season is, of course, sometimes things happen. You don't have the time. You can consider filing an extension. Tax season is actually a very busy time. Everybody, kumbaga, this is your rush hour, of the time of the year when you file your taxes. So it may be February or even March, and you could still be waiting to, for all these documents to come in and important tax documentation. Sometimes it get lost and went to another mail. Remember, I was telling you, make sure that your address is right? Or it was never sent. So you have to, you can actually give yourself a buffer. You can consider filing for an extension with the help of your tax preparer and requesting for this extra 6 months. Again, guys, you can extend your filing of your taxes in extension for another 6 months, which will actually allow you to file return by what? October. But for you to be able to do this, you will have to complete an IRS Form 4868, or better yet, again, ask the professional to be able to help you in doing this. For an extension, they can usually do that, right? Requesting for this extension, guys, is actually free. But if you owe taxes, and then interest will definitely continue to accrue and penalties will apply. So you would want to make sure that you decide on this one properly. Okay, mga kaibigan, maybe the last thing that I would want to share with you is, of course, you can adjust your withholding. A lot of people may not understand what withholding is, right? So it is just idea. It's a good idea, to be able to check your W-4 withholding. So if you work, okay, here we go. If you work in a traditional job, your W-2 job, your employer will actually ask you to fill out a W-4. A W-4 form, is your employer will ask you to fill this out every January, because this will determine how much tax that you will be withholding from your paycheck based on your tax status. So basically, the number of dependents you claim and other adjustments such as, additional non-employment income and deductions, so they will ask you how much you would want to withhold from your paycheck. So if you receive a larger refund after filing the return, right, of the previous year, but your tax situation largely remained the same, it may indicate that you're withholding too much from your paycheck. So if you ended up owing taxes, it may indicate that you're not withholding enough. So I hope that's actually clear for you guys. So if you're unsure of what withholding is all about, you can use the IRS tax withholding estimator to be able to determine how much you need to withhold. Sometimes when you're filling out this W form, you just put the number because we don't really understand it. But there's actually in the IRS website that will be able to help you determine how much that is a good amount to withhold. From there, what do you call this? If you know that, you can also, by the way, you can also ask your HR department to to help you adjust that withholding for this case, this tax year, right? And so you want to do that so you don't run into the same issue the way that you filed your taxes last year. Okay? So mga kaibigan, getting ready for this tax season and for you to file your 2023 return, between assembling the documents, understanding your filing status, finding an accountant, or finding a tax preparer for this tax season, it actually will be able to require you a lot of time and effort. Right? But okay, mga kaibigan, that's just the way it is. Especially if you've been doing this every year, that's great, right? But sometimes it doesn't mean that you've been doing it for a long time. We are actually doing it right. You may be actually habitually doing it wrong, right? So we have to correct it. That's the reason why we're talking about it today. So the process, it doesn't have to be so stressful for you and me. The only way that you can do that if you're able to plan ahead. Right? So today is a good time, or maybe I should say yesterday was a good time as to get ready for this tax season. Consider setting aside a time at the end of your working day maybe, or in a weekend, to prepare everything you need, and you will not be able to rush to meet this April 2024 tax filing deadline. Wow, mga kaibigan. I hope you guys got, a good takeaway on our topic today on how to prepare for your taxes. Again, this is another episode of In My Toolbox. Again, my name is Enrico Pobre. I'm your host for this wonderful show. I'm signing off.